Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Nicola Donnelly, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Signalman James Adams. We warmly welcome the family of leading aircraftman Alan Kenneth Goyne, whose story will be told shortly. We also warmly welcome Group Captain Ernie Walsh, President of the ACT Division of the Air Force Association. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. With golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
If you require a seat, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to leading aircraftman Alan Kenneth Goyne. Alan Goyne was born in Hobart, Tasmania on the 9th of June 1923. He was the third of 5 sons born to Thomas Alexander Goyne and his wife Thelma, though their eldest son died in infancy. Thomas had served in the Australian Imperial Force in the First World War and remained in the army during the interwar period. Alan attended Hobart State High School to complete his education, though he did not sit either his intermediate or junior public examination before leaving school in June 1936. While in school, Alan represented Tasmania in rowing, and he remained associated with the Derwent Rowing Club after completing his schooling. He was also a keen cyclist, footballer, boxer, and swimmer. After completing his schooling, Alan trained as a welder and began working as a clerk for Tasmanian Industrial Gases Limited. From 1937, he also began training part-time as an accountant with Hemingway and Robertson, an accountancy firm with offices in Hobart and Melbourne. Alan enlisted in the Citizens Military Force in Hobart on the 7th of May 1942 with the rank of private and began full-time duty with the Tasmanian District Records Office as a clerk. He was promoted to corporal 2 weeks later. In mid-August, Alan was transferred from the Records Office to the General Details Depot in Hobart and reverted to the rank of private. With the growing demand for flight crews as part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, Alan was discharged from the Citizens Military Force on the 25th of September 1942 as being required for service with the RAAF. He enlisted at No. 6 Recruiting Centre in Hobart on 9th of October 1942. Mustered as aircrew, he left Tasmania for Victoria to commence his initial training. After his initial period at No. 1 Initial Training School in Somers, Victoria, Alan was remustered as a pilot in early December 1942 before being promoted to leading aircraftman on the 2nd of January 1943. In early January, Alan moved to No. 7 Elementary Flying Training School at Western Junction, where he completed his pilot's course in early April. He then moved to No. 1 Service Flying Training School at Point Cook to undertake more advanced operational flying training. Even in the training stages, operating aircraft was dangerous. Collisions, accidents, malfunctions, and crash landings were not uncommon, especially among trainees with minimal flying experience. One such accident occurred on the 19th of July 1943 at Durdidwarra Dam, just east of Meredith in Victoria. Several trainees were engaged in a training formation flight within the assigned training area when 2 of their Oxford aircraft collided in the air. The 2-seater aircraft had been declared fully serviceable before the training exercise began, and no mechanical faults were reported in a subsequent investigation. Following the collision, both aircraft crashed, one into a cleared and unoccupied paddock nearby, the other into the dam. The damage to both Oxfords was so severe that they were written off at public expense. None of the 4 trainees involved survived the accident. One of those killed was leading aircraftman Alan Goyne. He was 20 years old. The bodies of Alan and the other 3 trainees were extracted from the wreckage after the crashes. All 4 were clad in their parachute harnesses. Alan's remains were buried at Springvale War Cemetery in Melbourne, Victoria. His name is also listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. we now remember leading aircraftman Kenneth Goyne, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.